Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us tonight. My name is Erin. I am the Managing Director with the Eastside Art Society. We're producers of the Eastside Culture Crawl. We are here for a demo tonight with one of our crawl artists. Her name is Karen Lorena Parker, and she'll be telling us all about creating art with digital media. But before we proceed, we'd like to gratefully acknowledge that we are living, working, and creating on the traditional unceded territories of the Squamish, Musqueam, and Tsleil-Waututh nations. And we are very grateful for all of that. So thank you again for joining us. And if you have any questions, or please enter them into the question and answer at the bottom, and we will answer those as soon as possible. And please do welcome Karen Lorena Parker. She has a studio at 1000 Parker. And please do remember to join her during the Culture Crawl this weekend. Karen, I'm going to hand things over to you.
Thanks for the introduction. Happy to be here. I am at 1000 Parker Street in my studio, and I have Akshay Gupta here from Bit Happier, who is just helping me with the camera, and some and some exciting news. He has launched a website, bithappier.com, where you can join for free and upload 5 free NFTs. So we can talk more about that later, but I just want to introduce him. He's going to be my cameraman, and I'll switch the camera around. If you can grab that, great. So welcome to my studio. I want to show you the physical art, and then I'm going to go on the computer and show you how Procreate and Photoshop are some of the major tools that I use in my work. I come from a graphic design background, visual effects background, so and I'm also very cheap. So having that efficiency with my tools is really important. Like, art materials are so expensive. So if I want to create something really great, I can take a picture of it, I can edit it, and I can say, well, I want to go in this direction or that direction. So some of the physical work I'm going to show you before I get on the computer. When I was a kid, I never went to art galleries, but I fell in love with fashion illustration from Vogue magazines in the thrift stores. So I thought, well, actually, I'm capable of making fashion illustrations right now. And Lindt saw them, and they commissioned me to do this box of chocolates for the Golden Globes for the Metoo movement. So it was pretty exciting to have this when everybody was wearing black and all my red chocolate boxes were on the table. So it was one of those things where I do many styles of artwork. I was doing landscapes at the time, and I thought, oh, I have to stick to one thing. I'm only doing landscapes. I should focus on landscapes. But the reason why we became an artist in the first place was to, feed your soul and explore and do what inspires you. And I was kind of rewarded, I felt like by doing fashion illustration, because that's what inspired me. And I got rewarded with that contract. This is a print. This is a print of my political series. This one's called American Fashion, and just the fascination with guns in the States. The first series of the NRA, I started with the classroom shootings. That was really upsetting to me. And I thought, this is a really complicated, charged event. And how do I work with art to create something that, we can still look at and we can still engage in, and it's still kind of beautiful and romantic, but it doesn't stop us from thinking about it. It's not so horrific that we turn away from it. So that theme of work it's what inspired me to do more photorealism. So this is my 2 wolves, that's with airbrush. And I was after like more narratives that I needed high realism for. This was a study of Mr. Aidan Brady. So again, this portrait here, where you could see the realism at the top, but as you go down, you can see it's not rendered very well. And here it's the Yupo paper, the very smooth Yupo paper. So the challenge with photorealism, this one here is Sedna. This is the Inuit believe that Sedna protects the ocean, and she gets quite upset when it's disrespected. So her hair gets tangled up all the marine life. The shaman turns a fish, they soothe her, they comb her hair. But what's happening with corporations and government that are throwing garbage in the ocean and not really showing her that same respect. So when I have these political themes or these ideas, I want to, again, illuminate them in a beautiful way, but still remind us that, we have to protect this ocean, and that, culturally, if your mother, Mother Nature, Lady Justice, Sedna, if your mother knew that you're the corporation throwing garbage in the ocean, like maybe there's a reason why these were female goddesses. The other thing is, again, with Photoshop, I have to decide what I'm painting. I have to commit to that. It's not like abstract art or my impressionistic work where my rough draft is on the substrate. Here on Yupo paper, I can't really change my mind. I really have to be quite clear on what I'm doing. So Photoshop has been a great help with that. Same thing with my landscapes here. I'm able to work with Photoshop to decide on the cloudscape or the lighting. I'm quite fascinated by time of day. So, this painting was more diffuse lighting, and then I decided to make it a little more dramatic that way. This is another example of my digital art. So Lady Justice, the idea that some people believe that justice was attacking Trump, or is Trump attacking justice, was over the financial district. And this concept, I wanted to be in the beginning of the story, I had originally had a hero pose of Lady Justice winning, but it's well, she's not really winning, and both sides, Democrats or Republicans, can agree that justice is destabilized. So that concept worked its way into a digital idea until I finalized it, and then it's currently was executed as a 40 by 60 pencil crayon drawing. So that was the medium that I thought I could use for that. So I hope that sort of shows how Photoshop can be the concept that I will reproduce in photorealism, or it's taking a photo of my work and editing it on the computer and deciding how to improve it. So I go through many iterations on the computer to get to a piece that I really like. I'll take you now to my computer. And thanks, Akshay, for helping me out so much. So this again here, if you want to look there, this is the Lindt box of chocolates that I worked on. That was pretty exciting. And I have the, this is how the digital illustration was. So in Procreate, you're able to record this, record your actions. So it's great that as you work on this Procreate and draw, it actually records it for you. So this was an example of the process that worked with Lindt. So they had an idea that they wanted, a diva at the event. And so what did that diva look like? What kind of generic look was it going to be? And so it was kind of exciting because I feel like when Angelina Jolie was looking, it was almost like Pax was like, "Oh, that's you, Mom. I think that's you." That was my thinking. I wanted to show you some other ones here. This is an example here of finding your style in your work. So here's an example of two pieces, or I guess you can zoom in, but just over here with Liz Taylor. I really like this romantic lighting and coloring. There's also a beauty to portraiture in terms of structure. Typically, female portraits are very soft and male portraits are quite structural, but this one has a bit of both, which is quite lovely. But I wanted to do Sophia Loren in this pose. And so using this lighting was a great way to reference the two as a study. And then deciding whether you want to make it cartoonish or not, because once you start to add these toon lines, it starts to be a little more graphic. So I find that there's that deciding on your style, and this is a discovery and planning. As you work through the piece, you can discover and find elements that you like and move with that. Or at the end of the day, you have a plan. And then this way I could say, okay, I've decided what I want to do. Now I can do this in photorealism or abstract or how do I want to execute this idea? I'm not sure, again, like the various people listening to this, we've got like brushes that you can download. So for example, here, you can just Google free brushes and you can download them. So in this one, for example, there's landscape brushes. And typically you don't want something that repeats that much. But here are all the brushes that you can play with. So you're creating that mark making. And that's just simply, you know, download free Photoshop brushes. And if you're interested in me showing you how to load them, that's something you can do as well. With brushes at the same time, you know, these are just sort of the standard brushes that come with Photoshop. And as you paint with this, so let's see here. I guess it's not bright. As I paint with this brush, there's also these different options for multiply, darken, lighten. So for example, this would be black. Let's try a layer here. It just operates like a watercolor as it works on top of it. Whereas if it's just a normal setting, it should be different. These are, yeah, so these are sort of the standard brushes that you can work with. And what else can I show you here? This of course is a Cintiq, which is what, you know, these iPads came from, that you can draw on directly. So I thought I can take this drawing. So this is just a typical one of my sketches that I can work with, and then draw with this one online. One of the other things too is when you do bring in objects from that you've taken a picture of, sometimes they're not straight. So this is kind of a nice tool for people that are photographing something glossy. You could photograph it on an angle where you don't have the reflection, and then you could straighten it on the computer. So not ideal, but sometimes if you're doing your own photography and you don't have the best lighting, that's an option you can do as well. These were some more of the fashion illustrations, and these were the ones that Lindt saw that caught their eye for the box of chocolates. So again, just being able to use the different mark making that is available with different brushes. And and then this is an example of like the iterations that I go through. So this was one of my sketches. This was a painting, and then it just sort of inspired this work. So if I can just stop right there and just see if there's any questions. I don't know if Aaron is.
Karen, yeah, we had one request is if we could possibly stabilize the camera anymore. I know it's handheld, and thank you for that.
Yes.
There's just some challenges in seeing things clearly from some right now.
Absolutely. Sorry about that.
That's okay. We understand.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any other questions?
I was thinking to go into some detail with Photoshop, but I don't know, like, I feel like there's just so much I can talk about. So one of the things I want to talk about is, you know, finding your style and finding your voice, and how do you, you know, look at references and develop that piece of work that is authentic to you. So like for me, you know, the fashion illustration is just something that I really enjoy. I love the feeling that you get from the poses that are available. Like in animation, we have golden pose, and what you say in that pose means a lot. I love like the constructed fashion and that style. I like science fiction. I like how you know, Fallout 4 or these video games are using kind of retro styles in a futuristic way. So, you know, if you were just to describe your work in 3 words, like whimsical, you know, structured, science fiction, romantic. You know, these are sort of the things I find that even though I have many different themes of my work, I'm always trying to limit them. I'm just trying to like romantic, movement, and then three things: conceptual, expression, and technical. I want to find those three things in my work. So sometimes I'm just doing a study like the portrait. I really just want to focus on photorealism and, you know, something that I can get a likeness of. The expression, sometimes it's just the medium that I want to express and engage with the viewer. So yeah, technical, expression, and conceptual are three things that I really, really aspire to in my work. And that's what inspires me actually as well. I was gonna say, so, you know, finding your voice is like, I think one of the most important things as an artist, because as a digital artist, as an illustrator, animator, you know, we're always trying to figure out what it is that makes you the artist, because you're the client. You're not doing this work for anybody else. The work I did for Lindt was exciting and great, but it was for them. So how does that work for me? Any other questions before I go on to anything else?
We had a question from Beres, who was asking if you could tell everybody a bit more about figure shading. They like the soft lighting based on the Liz Taylor inspired.
Oh, okay.
Image.
Yeah. Let's go next. So, yeah, so I think that this is sort of where I feel like there's two different types of art. There's atmospheric. I'm actually going to bring this up here. So when you look at a landscape, there's an atmospheric depth to it. And when I look at this type of work, you know, you've got the blues here are more of like a desaturated purple blue, and the blues here are more of an aqua light saturated blue. So desaturated to saturated, purple to green, there's a gradient, there's a flow. And you know, things in the foreground are more focused, things in the background are more distant, as opposed to something patterned. You know, when you look at a damask, it's just one color or the other. There's no atmosphere, there's no depth to it, there's rarely any gradient to it. So when I look at artwork, I'm looking at this thinking, which way am I going to go? Am I going to go with more flat type illustrative look, or am I going to go with a more romantic atmosphere? Berez's question about structure, you have the same old thing with, it's not working. The same old study that you have with, you know, with a ball, where, you know, the shadow falls on the ball and the highlight falls on the top. It's the same idea with the face. You know, I'm making that decision that the lighting is coming from this direction, and, you know, these are the planes of the face. And the more of this ball type idea that I do, the more structure I'm going to get in this face. And this is sort of what I was mentioning, in that typically with men, you know, you want structure, but with women, the portraiture was sort of more soft. But I think that aesthetic has changed now with, you know, women becoming healthier and fitter, and you know, a little more androgynous in terms of the way we look at things. So you can still have structure, and the difference being these soft edges. How smooth is this going to be? How are the transitions going to look? Because when you look at this, I do have those. I do have that structure, but I've softened the transition quite a bit. The difference again with these outlines now, if I just start to fill them in, it's starting to become more illustrative. And again, you know, like Lichtenstein would use the halftone pattern. So he would still create that fading and that gradient, but using that halftone pattern is how he achieved it instead of, you know, using a soft brush in Photoshop. And this is also actually a good indication of how this is not, in my mind, this is not a good or finished painting, because typically when you look at digital art, it's too soft. There's no hard edges. Like there's a difference between specular highlight and like imagine a glossy ball, a pool ball, and then imagine a soft felt ball, a fabric ball. That specular highlight means something. And so is her dress more satiny? Is it more shiny? It would have harder highlights. So those are, I hope that answers the question. Is there any other questions there for me? Yeah.
I don't see any right now. Let's see. Oh, someone said thank you. Perez said thank you for that.
Okay, great. So I was going to show this one here on Procreate as well. So Procreate as well is one of these great programs that has this ability for, you know, working on Procreate, but also doing final work. So this is an example of a client that I went to where this was their space and they wanted me to do a painting. And so we were just deciding on the interior design of the space. How is this painting going to look in the space? So I took a photo of their place, drew up a little idea of the painting, and then put that in there. So this was also a great selling feature to be helping with commissions with interior designers and with clients. This one here. This is an example of the painting that I showed you at a different stage. So here I'm just blocking in colors, just blocking in feelings. So from here it went to a different stage. And I think that's another great thing about digital art is that you're able to find the process of yourself and the decisions that you've made. So as you go along, are you making good decisions? You know, when you look back, you go, yeah, I think that worked out well. That was a good choice. That was a good direction. This is another piece here in terms of lighting. Like we learn a lot from photography in terms of key light, rim lights, and again, structurally or mood. So, you know, here I've chosen a light for her back, but then a different type of rim light for her face. And again, these are just studies that may or may not show up in my work, but I find that it's important just to be doing something every day to make sure that that when you have a challenge, you have those tools available for you. This is one of my abstract paintings. So I'm just going to show you the painting here. These are my alcohol ink florals. And so as I'm working on them, they're very abstract and I don't really know where they're going, but sometimes I'll take a picture of them. And then that way I can see what I have in the painting. I think I have a layer here. The painting looked like this. So I took a photo of it and then I could decide what I wanted to accentuate. How did I want to bring out the depth of the flower, the color of the flower? But from this stage, the digital sketch meant that I could practice on another piece of paper and then take a look at it there as a finished piece. So again, I can look at it and say, yeah, I think I made the right decisions. I think from here to there, I chose the right direction. And you know, sometimes I don't, but at the same time, it's kind of this nice way to document and not have to worry about ruining a piece. You can be a little more confident. Yeah, So I think I'm finishing up here. I just wanted to introduce you all to Akshay's Bit Happier site. This is just something I've been working on as well. And I think you do have another lecture or demonstration on NFTs, which are the non-fungible tokens, which is artists selling work through cryptocurrency and blockchain. And so Akshay's worked on this website and it's in the beta phase. And so he's looking for artists to help with feedback. And in return, you can have NFTs, your own NFTs uploaded. At the moment, they're quite expensive to put up. And so this is something where you can just sign up, create your account, and then you will end up being part of this collection of artists, art therapists, investors that are looking to improve the happiness in the world, because art brings us so much joy. And imagine a world where investors are investing in happiness and art and what artists can bring to the community. So it's a pretty exciting project. And I think that's the end, right?
We're just about there. Thank you, Karen. Do we have any last questions from anyone?
I'm at 1000 Parker. I'm in Studio 215. I'd love to chat with you about my work. And if you have any other questions, you're welcome to just send me the raindrops upstairs. Welcome to send me any questions or connect with me on Instagram or Facebook. It's Karen Lorena Parker.
Wonderful. Thank you, Karen. That was very informative, and we appreciate you sharing all your insights into digital media. And as Karen mentioned, she is at 1000 Parker, and we have the Culture Crawl on this weekend from November 18th to the 21st. You can search artists and plan your crawl at culturecrawl.ca, and we hope to see everyone out then. So thanks for joining us, and we hope to see you this weekend. Take care, everyone.
Bye-bye.